So what do you do when somebody belittles you, invalidates you, takes away your affirmation? This is just one of 6 ways that abusers will express their meltdowns. Now, people with autism, we have meltdowns. We understand, I think, what that is. We become overwhelmed with stress and it just comes out. But did you know that our abusers who are not autistic also have meltdowns? They have them all the time. They express them maybe a little bit differently, maybe a little bit more subtle, but those meltdowns are there nonetheless. And one way they express a meltdown is by belittling you, sometimes other people, but typically, if you are autistic, you're a prime target. If you are empathetic, you're not one who is inclined to fight back. Well, they're going to pick on you. I hate to use that term, pick on you. It sounds juvenile, but that's what they're doing. They're picking on you. So what do you do? What I would suggest you do, and you want to listen to this because I think it's important. By the way, as we go through these 6 things, you might want to let me know or let others know if you've experienced any of these from abusers. Hopefully you haven't done these yourselves, but as I go through these, I got to say, hey, I'm guilty of some of these things. So, but anyhow, what do you do? When people belittle you, when they take away your affirmation, when they invalidate you, what you do is you stop and think about what are the chances of you even being here? I mean, they are so remote. You got to come to the conclusion that, hey, you are somebody special. Not because you are you. I mean, everybody is special, right? So, for example, I know when my dad, before he passed away, he was talking to the family, and we actually video recorded this. And he told us about his life experiences, and one of those was when he was in the military during World War II, and it was time for his, regiment or whatever, to be shipped out. And the day before, his superior, asked him to do an unpleasant task, and in exchange for that, he gave him a 1-day pass. We could go off base. And he wasn't aware, my dad wasn't aware that they were about to be shipped out. So he took his pass and he went home and visited, I guess my mom or whatever. And he got a phone call from another supervisor who said, "Where are you? You're supposed to be on the boat." He said, "Well, I got this pass. I'm legit. I'm not AWOL." But anyhow, he went back to the base. But his regiment had already been shipped out. So he literally missed the boat. And it turns out that regiment, and I may have my military terms off a bit, but his regiment was pretty much wiped out. So if he had been on that boat, I would not be here because, that was years before I was born, like 10 years before I was born, 1940, 43 maybe. So what are the chances of him having that pass on the very day that he was to be shipped out? And he also told stories about he had a girlfriend that wasn't my mom. What would have happened if he had married this other woman? Well, I wouldn't be here. Somebody else would, So what are the chances of my parents meeting, and your parents meeting, for that matter? The odds, I've read this in Business Insider. I might put a link to it if I don't forget in the description section. 1 in 20,000. The odds of your parents meeting are 1 in 20,000. So you could say the chances of you even being here are 1 in 20,000 if we just stop at that. But what are the odds of your grandparents meeting? Well, your maternal grandparents, 1 in 20,000. Your paternal grandparents, 1 in 20,000. So what is that? 1 in 40,000 if you just double them. And what about your great-grandparents? Okay, now you've got 4 of them. What about your great-great-grandparents? Now you got 8 of them. And you go all the way back to, Adam and Eve, or whoever the original parents were. However far back you want to go, if you were to follow your lineage all the way back to the original parents, whoever they were, your existence is 0. I mean, the odds of you being here is non-existent. Okay, somebody actually did the math on this, did the work on this. And they say the chances of you existing is 1 in 10 to the 2,680,000 5,000th, if that's a word, power. In other words, that's 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 for 2,685 times 10s. So to put that in perspective, how many atoms are there in the universe? Well, 10 to the 80th power. So it's 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 for 80 times. The chances of you being here, you are mathematically impossible. So when somebody puts you down, belittles you, and this is just the beginning, we're not talking about the amazing components of your physiology. That's a whole different story that makes you somebody special. And again, you're not special and nobody else is. We're all special. So when somebody wants to belittle you, put you down, invalidate you, take away your sense of affirmation, want to make you feel bad because of who you are, let me tell you right out of the bat, you are somebody special. We all are. So don't let them get inside your head with that. But one of the ways abusers will express their meltdown, show their pain, is through belittlement. Number two is they do it, this is kind of similar, but by accusing others. Now when I talk about belittlement, what I'm talking about is maybe we would say when they're just expressing frustration specifically at you. But now let's talk about their specific failures. It's not their general failures, but they're very specific failures, that things they do maybe one at a time. They stub their toe. Whose fault is it? It's somebody else's fault. Somebody put that thing there, whatever it is, they stubbed their toe on or bumped their knee on or what. Who did that? You know, what's wrong with these people? Don't people know that I'm going to be walking here? So one of the ways they express meltdowns, the second way that I came up with, is through accusing others. The third way is through what I call it, a lot of people call it blame shifting. So you take this culmination of all these failures, of everything they have done, and whose fault is it that they are living in this horrific environment that everyone else has made for them? They just kind of shift the blame to others. They say, I didn't do this. I didn't make this mess. You've heard the expression, sleep in the bed that you made, or however that goes. They're blame shifting. That's one of the ways. That's a third way that I think of that they have meltdowns. And I was just kind of thinking of this, going through it, and I came up with 6 of these that I want to tie together in just a moment. But a fourth way, and I think you've probably experienced this, you probably did it yourself, I know I have, is just being uncooperative. They call it being passive aggressive. Not having an outburst in the conventional sense, but what would you call this? An inburst? I don't think that's a word, but you know what I mean. It's not, they're not being violent, they're not shouting at anybody, not shouting somebody down, not being physical, they're just not being cooperative. Sending a message to you that they are not happy campers. They are having a meltdown. It's a very passive meltdown, but it's a meltdown nonetheless. Okay, so the point is, the people say that those of us with autism have meltdowns, and we do. And it's kind of frustrating, particularly when you have it in public, which is generally where I have my meltdowns, because that's where I'm triggered. It's just being around other people and the way that other people, neurotypical people, behave. It just triggers me to have a meltdown. And there I am in the middle of, shopping center, airport, church, grocery store, or wherever I happen to be, and boom, meltdown comes. Another way is they live in a self-made reality. By that I mean they see the world through a lens that focuses on them. And again, people with autism, we do the same thing, but the world has to be our way every time, all the time, and if it's not, we get just a little bit upset. That's one of the ways they have meltdowns. Now, I saw somebody do this in a store the other day, talking about being in public, having a meltdown. There was this woman, older woman, maybe my age, maybe not quite, and she was wearing what I would call the holiness uniform. She had her hair piled up, had on a dress, very modest, very simply dressed, but she also had an attitude. I mean, I saw her walking into the store, and she just kind of, get out of my way type of walk. I thought not a whole lot about it. But then I got behind her in line as we were about to check out. This is at a place called Rural King. You know, it's kind of a big box store like Lowe's or Menards, only it's not as classy, but they have good prices. I love to go there. They have free popcorn. We were standing in line, and she was getting a little bit impatient because there was a line and there was only one checkout open, and she finally got so frustrated that she just pushed her cart aside and stomped out the store. And I thought to myself, how stupid is that? She doesn't want to wait. And there's only one other customer between her and the cashier, and she didn't want to wait, so she left. So she wasted all that time driving to the store, shopping for whatever she wanted, putting it in her cart. Already stood in line for a while, then she went home or wherever she went. She wasted all of that time because she didn't want to wait a couple more minutes to get to the checkout counter. She was having a meltdown, and just from observing this woman, it's kind of like she lives in a state of meltdown, and some people do. They're just never-ending meltdowns, but they have this self-made reality is what we're talking about. Number 6 is this. They are dominated by emotions. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but some people, they just, and this woman may be an example of this, but some people rather, are just, what would you call them, triggered constantly, nonstop. They just are mad all the time. They're dominated by their emotions, and their emotions typically are not good emotions. They're just unhappy people. They just kind of, again, they just live in a permanent state of melting down. It's just like they're hot. They're aggressive. They're assertive. So what do? What you do, the takeaway of all these things, or when we tie them all together, is what we do is we understand that problems will never solve themselves if we never address the cause of the problems. So when you have a meltdown, when they have a meltdown, there's always a trigger. There's something that causes that, and sometimes it's all in their head. You know, like this woman in the store. I think that was all in her head. You know, she's probably that way when she was a little girl. Probably been that way her whole life. Probably married to a very unhappy person. So if you don't address the cause, you know, every cause has an effect. If you don't address the cause, you can't deal with these meltdowns. And a lot of people who are our abusers, they don't want to address the cause because they are the cause. They would rather project that onto us. And when we try to create that false reality, we're kind of like playing God, you know? You know, the Genesis account is God spoke the universe into existence. Just said, let it be, and poof, there it was. I tried that once and it didn't work, so apparently I'm not God. That thing about being created in God's image, apparently that's not what it means. So you can try to create light if you want. I say, let there be light, and my wife will flip on the switch. Okay, that's not the same thing. No, I can't do that. But a lot of people, you know, those of us who are abusers, they create a reality. And the reality is there's something wrong with us, but not wrong with them. Okay, they're speaking something into existence, maybe not with their words, but a lot of times with very hurtful words. They're trying to speak into reality and existence that just is not true. So they have this temperament explosion. And that woman I was describing, I would say that she is temperamental all the time. So let me know what you think. There's a blue dot in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Click on that. You can become a part of our YouTube family. Don't forget to click the bell. There's a rectangle in the lower left-hand corner. Click that, and you can access our library of past videos. There's quite a few of them, so you can watch now and forever, and we'll see you all next time.